بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين.
Hear it, right? But for a person who's never heard a azan at 4 in the morning, right? This is a melody. Doesn't that tell you something? It tells you that the tawheed and the love of Allah is embedded in every one of us. Okay, but traveling the Gulf. And she said that we went to Kenya, and I had family in Kenya, and we stayed with the family in Kenya, and we went to the mosques in Kenya, we went to the dargahs in Kenya, where the saints of Islam are buried. Some of the Fatimids saints are buried in Islam. And we went to Malindi as well, which was the mangoes of Malindi. Even today, if you're from East Africa, you'll know that there is no mango like the mango of Malindi, right? So I took my wife to the mango of Malindi, and also there is a halwa in Malindi, right, which is superb. Okay, now we're in the market town of this wonderful old city. It's a very old city. There are no cars on the city. There's only donkey. There's only one car. Right, it's all donkeys. The azan comes on, and the azan is recited at midday, and my wife tells me, "Look at this azan. Isn't it different from the azan that we listen to?" And in the azan, it is Ashhadu la ilaha illallah, Ashhadu anna Muhammad Rasulullah, Ashhadu anna Ali Waliullah. Right? Now, I said to her at that time, this is an azan of the Shia. We look at them as kafirs, the heretics. Let's get away from here. Don't answer this azan. Right? We don't need to listen to this. It is this azan, literally, okay, that is implanted in the heart, for me, that starts my spiritual walk. Because I heard this azan, I said the words, right? But then these words came back to haunt me. If I'm calling these people kafir, if I'm calling these people heretics, should I not investigate them? Right?
Find out exactly who
they are. Yeah. But I put that on the back burner. I said, no, it's not the time to find out if these are heretics or not, right? Because my journey is much more stronger. I have to go somewhere else. Okay. So going into places like the Gulf, we went into different mosques. Yeah. We did different things. And at this point, Nadia wasn't wearing the hijab. It wasn't important. It wasn't an option. But we were discussing, we were talking about what the value of hijab is, what the Quran says about the hijab, and also different aspects of fasting, what fasting is, and salah. Okay, so both of us are fighting with these issues. The nafs is fighting, okay, the issues of salah, the issues of fasting. And I remember quite clearly, I used to make a stand outside a mosque in the heat, and 49. Unconsciously, she's unconscious of this, I'm conscious of this, right? That I can go to an air-conditioned mosque, do my salah, and then come back. And I can see her that she's gone.
Because I've not gone prepared with hijab, I can't go into it.
And she's gone red in the heat, and she's now fuming in temper and everything, right? So it took a while, progress here to say this, look, I have to participate in this religion, to become one with this religion, right? And I think she asked different people in the family, how do you do salah?
Could you tell us a little bit about, the transition to hijab and finding out a bit more about salah?
Yeah, I mean, certainly Naem says that he feels it was me being stuck out in the heat, not being able to go into an air-conditioned mosque. But I think there were other reasons as well. At that time, I had a young daughter, and as Naem had said earlier, that it had been discussed that any children would be brought up as Muslims, and I knew from reading the Quran in English that a woman should be covered up, but had resisted in doing so. I work as a GP in an English community, and there are no other Muslims, were no other Muslims in that community, so I was a bit shy, reticent at wearing her hijab. But I remember after one particular discussion, when Naem was sort of saying, you can't really sort of set an example if you don't follow it yourself. I thought, no, it's right. I can't expect my daughter to wear a hijab if her own mother won't wear a hijab.
That's right.
And I literally, in that day, put a hijab on and
so
went to work.
this transition is a very, very quick and fast decision. Now we see that our change in our life is taking bounds and leaps.
Okay.
Yeah. So she said to me in the evening, tomorrow I'm going to go wearing the hijab to work.
We'll come back to that part of it straight after the break. Welcome back. I have with me Brother Naem Al-Malik and Dr. Nadia Al-Malik, who are discussing their journey, their spiritual journey from the beginnings to where they are now in Islam. If any callers would like to ring in with any questions, or if they'd like to share any experiences, the number will be coming up on your screen in a short while. Dr. Al-Malik, you were saying about hijab.
That's right. As I said, I literally made the decision to wear the hijab, and the very next day put on the hijab and went to work. And it did raise a few eyebrows, but in fact I found my staff and patients very, very accepting of me wearing the hijab. And it wasn't long after I started to wear the hijab that a new doctor came to work in the local hospital.
Can I just ask, what sort of period of time are we talking? What years are we talking about? Mid-70s, mid-80s?
No, we're talking about maybe about 10 years ago.
About 10 years ago?
Yes,
so
about 10 years ago.
Right.
So, we had been married for about 10 years
Sure.
prior to that occasion. So, as Naem says, it's been a long journey to get to this point. I didn't embrace Islam and wear a hijab straight away. It's taken 10 years of talking and discussing and travelling and reading to realise that hijab was an important thing to put on, to protect my modesty, to declare my faith to other people so they knew that I was a Muslim.
Sure.
And as I said, not long after wearing the hijab, a new doctor came to work in the local hospital, and he brought his wife and daughters into surgery to register them. And they were sitting in front of me, and the ladies were wearing hijab as well. And he saw me wearing hijab, and he was talking for his wife and children, and he was very pleased to see that there was another Muslim in that community, because he thought him and his wife, his family were going to be the only Muslims there. So the fact that I was wearing the hijab and declaring my faith to him allowed him to ask about how I knew about Islam, and I explained that my husband had introduced me to Islam, and he said that he would very much like to meet my husband. And that is how I introduced my husband to Dr. Ali.
Okay. So you were invited to Dr. Ali's house, I believe?
It was strange because, Nadia came to the house and said to me, I've got an Iraqi or Iranian family, because she wasn't sure which part of the world they were from. But she said, but they're Arabs, right? And they've invited us to come to their house for a meal. Now, if you can imagine, I've been living in the north of England for this time, in the village I live in. There are no Muslims. No. Nobody's ever given us an invitation
no other Muslims
to come for a meal, and just for this to come out of the blue, that come in the evening for a meal, right? I was quite excited. I thought, yeah, let's go to this meal. Let's see this gentleman. And alhamdulillah, we got together in the evening, and we knocked at his house, and we were allowed in with a very warm welcome. And as I'm entering the door, on the left-hand side, I see a sword, Dhul Fakar, right? And I start seeing the Shia insignias, the 5 purified ones on the wall, the 12 imams, and I said to my wife, I think I whispered to her, I said, these are all Shia, right? Do you remember we encountered these people in Malindi? And she said, You know, we are guests. You know, what does it matter, really, that we are guests? And alhamdulillah, I sat down and, you know, I'm looking at their house and I'm looking at their lifestyle. And this guy was so warm, you know, to me that he literally made me feel like I was part of his family.
Very welcoming, very welcoming.
Yeah, very welcoming, very warm, very generous, right? And I remember he said to me that he's the servant in his house, that I'm the owner, I'm the master, right? And this was shocking to me. I said, you know, I'm in his house and I'm the guest, right? And this is how humble and pious he is. And, you know, he had a plate of food on the table, like, you know, 30, 40 dishes, right, to welcome us, and because he was so happy. Time for Salah came, and I remember I didn't used to do Salah continuously. I didn't do the 5 times Salah. So he said to me, he said, brother, are you going to lead the Salah or shall I lead the Salah? And I said to him, look, I'm not what do you call an alim of anything. And also I remember now something in my mind that the Salah is done with an Arabic tongue, has priority over you. And I said to him, Ali, you do the Salah because you got the Arabic in your mouth. And he said to me, he said, my Salah is going to be slightly different. Right, because I'm from the fiqh Jafari, my Aqidah is different to yours. And obviously, you know, I will do the Salah differently. So he told me some ritual. I had never seen the Salah. Okay, so he puts a rock on the ground, you know, and he puts, what do you call, some prayer beads on the ground. And he said to me, he said, do you want to do wudu, you know, before, shall we do wudu? And I said, yeah, alhamdulillah, let's do the wudu. So he says to me, come, I'll show you the bathroom, you know. I said, well, you do wudu first and I'll follow you. Now, I was expecting a wudu, you know, like mine. Right. I've never seen this wudu in my life, right? He does the wudu, and he's so clean, he's so calm, and he said to me, please, Bismillah, you do the wudu. So I did the wudu, and of course, you know, I took my socks off, my shoes, and I'm putting my feet into the sink, and he actually fell over laughing, and he said, it's so funny, what if you fall, right, with misplacing your foot, and this is not the correct wudu anyway? And I said, how can this not be the correct wudu? This is the only wudu, right? He says, no, this is not the wudu of the Prophet, right? And then he actually recites me the ayah of the Quran, right? In the Quran says that you need 2 washes and 2 wipes, right? And to me, something about this particular issue that he mentioned in Arabic, to him, this Quran is coming openly, clearly, right? When he quotes the Quran, he actually doesn't do it without thinking. He says in the Quran, he says that, you know, you should wipe your head, right, and wipe your feet, not wash your head and wash your feet. And he says, okay, Bismillah, let's go anyway. So he said to me, are you going to? I said, no, you do the Salah. Now, he said, in the second part of the Salah, we'll do Qunut, and you don't do Qunut, you know, but I'll do Qunut. And it's after the Salah, I said to him, I said, Ali, this Salah, yours is batil, right? I'm telling him this, a person who doesn't do Salah 5 times a day. A person who does 5 times Salah, right, so this Salah is batil. I said, why? He said, why? Because he said, first of all, you're doing it on this rock, which is bid'ah, right? And secondly, your wudu is half done because you didn't wash your feet and you wash your head. And he said to me, he said, I invited you to my house. I fed you, right, okay? I saw your wudu, I saw your Salah. Did I say any was bid'ah? I didn't question you. Please tell me, what gives you authority? Or maybe you're an alim that I don't know, right? Maybe you've studied in Azhar. Maybe you studied in Qum or Najaf. And you know, these names suddenly came to me. I said, what is he talking about? Qum, Najaf, and all these places, right? He says, those alims can actually give fatwas. Those alims can correct you. But you're trying to correct me with no knowledge. You know, this time of my life of searching, for the first time I felt I'm outgunned here. This man's ilm, right, okay, makes me look stupid. Okay, so at that particular time in my life, and in that house, I felt very small. I felt I can't talk to this guy. I can't argue with him on deen, because this guy is, you know, really eloquent. Okay, he's really full of knowledge. He quotes the Quran from his tongue like it's, you know, it's automatic.
Backs everything up from the Quran.
He backs up everything from the Quran. And I remember going home and talking to, you know, my wife. I said, did you see this guy, how he actually quotes the Quran as if it's like it's impregnated in his body, you know? And she said, yeah, he's, you know, he's amazing. Even his wife is like that, right? So continuously, you know, Ali started talking to me about deen, Aqidah, right? What is Aqidah? What is the 4 schools of thought? And how the 4 schools of thought were formed. And he says clearly, he says, do I know the Imam of my time? He asks me a question, do you know who your Imam is? Because in Surah Yasin, it tells you that the whole of the Quran is in an Imam. We've enclosed it in an Imam. And in the Quran, it says to you, we'll resurrect you in the Akhirah behind your Imam, right? So he poses these questions from the Quran. He says to me, you read the Quran, you know, and haven't you asked yourself these questions? Who this Imam is? And I'm asking you, who's your Imam? And, you know, I was dumbfounded. I was dumbfounded. I could not answer these questions.
Because we recite Quran as a pure recitation. We don't try to...
Like parrot fashion.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I said to him, I said, Adi, look, I read the Quran and I look at its, what do you call, stories. Yeah. And I said to him, he actually looked at me and said, Astaghfirullah, do you think the Quran is stories? It's a guidance, it's a lead on mankind, right? It is sent here to straighten you out, right? It is here, it's a deen, it's to live. It's not a cut and paste deen. Where sometimes you feel like it's time for salah, you do the salah, and sometimes you don't do the salah. He says, Allah Almighty, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this Quran is commanding you. This is a commandment, right? If you do this, right, you'll be of the deen. If you don't do this, then you're not of those who are with the deen. This particular issue on my life was, you know, very, very detrimental. Because from sitting with him, discussing things with him, reading books with him, okay, started my spiritual journey. Because I realized that I was not read. I realized reading the Quran and the Hadith is not enough. It's nowhere near enough, right? To know the ilm, to know what Prophet has told us to go and search for ilm, even if it means going to China, as we started off this program. Ilm was to be acquired, right, through gradual process of training yourself, reading the right books, reading the right verses of the Quran, applying the Quran, right, to ourselves.
And living it.
And living it.
Rather than using it as a ritual, you know, ritual salah,
Absolutely.
Ritual fasting.
Absolutely.
That's not the objective of the whole
That
exercise.
process alone is 15 to 20 years on its own. Okay, and it's a non-stop process, right? In between talking to him for 5 to 10 years, you know, I realized that he'd instilled in me and he taught me what was needed. Okay, so he said to me, he said, the books I've given you, and he used to give me books free. You know, literally he would say, read this book, right, okay, analyze it, and we'll discuss it next time we meet, okay? So when he would give me a book, he would ask me, what did I read in that book? Okay, I would discuss with him, and I said, I'm learning this, you know, and this is what the Quran is saying. And he said to me, he says, now you're becoming proficient at actually quoting the Quran. You're becoming happy at quoting the Quran. I said, yes, I'm becoming happy. He says, because you feel at ease now.
Yeah.
And, you know, for the first time in my life, I felt that, yes, I could, you know, I'm relating to the Quran, right? That what is happening in the Quran, I'm doing myself, right? But it's not the last book that he gives me. This is the final book, right, that he gives me, that makes me want to become who? The Shia.
And that was?
The book is by Dr. Tijani al-Samawi, and the book is And Then I Was Guided. Okay. Now this particular book is a personal journey of Dr. Tijani from the Maliki school. He's a Tunisian. Okay. Right. Dr. Tijani is talking, he's having a dialogue that I'm having a dialogue with a Shia. But the Shia are not enforcing their view on Dr. Tijani. They're showing him, look, you're coming to look for who? Abu Hanifa in Iraq. You're coming to look for Abdul Qadir Jilani alayhi salam, right? In, what do you call, Iraq, okay? But why don't you come to the master of these people, right? You're coming to the students. Why don't you come to the master? I asked myself this question. The deen I was looking for, the purity I'm looking for, are we looking for the Prophet? I'm looking for the Prophet. I want his purity. I want his deen. I want his teachings. I want his tongue, right? I don't want anybody's interpretation. Okay. Finally, when I finished this book, and I remember waking up in the morning and saying to myself, do I want to become the person I hate, the people I hate?
You used me as a sounding board quite a lot to sort of discuss and throw issues back off. And I, you know, I realised then that I was questioning a lot, you know, Sunni, Shia. And, you know, he said to me, he said, I think I'm becoming Shia. And I said, does Dr. Ali tell you anything that goes against the Quran? And he said, no. He said, everything goes back to the Quran. I said, is there anything there that is, you know, you're not happy about? He says, you know, it teaches you about the Prophet and the Ahlul Bayt, the family of the Prophet. And I said, I don't see that there can be anything wrong
And there's the analytical scientific mind at work.
This was it. And see, the reason I used the scientific mind is what meagerly knowledge I had to convey Islam to this scientific mind. That scientific mind now is telling me that the Islam that I'm looking at is superior to the one I've been ingrained with, right? And that gives me the strength to say, if that person is so analytical, so meticulous, okay? If they see a fault and says, no, we're not going to follow this fault,
that's
right? He's pointing to me to saying that is the correct Islam. And the version that this Islam is referring to the Quran. It's backing up with the Quran, right? It's not backing up with his own mouth. He's not backing up with his own hadith. He's not backing up with his own story. He's not backing up with his own culture. He's not backing up with his own heritage, right? Okay. There is a fantastic thing that he said to me once. He became so close as a brother to me. He said to me, he said, "You made the first commandment from the Prophet. You made the first commandment that he gave you. Go and spread the deen, and you did not marry in your own culture. Why?" He says, because inside you, ingrained inside you, you're listening to the Prophet. He says, go and spread Islam. Go bring the people from outside the deen into Islam. The Prophet didn't say go into another culture and bring another person to your culture. He said, bring the people who are astray from that straying, deviation, to the truth, right? He said, I'm doing the same with you. He says, you are not sure of Islam, you are unsure of your actions, you are unsure of your knowledge. Now, the foundations are set. He says, I've given you the tools. I can't make you a good Muslim. You can make yourself a good Muslim.
As long as you use those tools?
As long as you use the tools. If your love of the Prophet is so great, if your love of Allah is so great, if your love of the Ahlul Bayt. And this word, Ahlul Bayt, Ahlul Bayt, Ahlul Bayt. When we start reading the Quran, the Ahlul Bayt, the Quran is quite clear on the house, the Prophet's house, that they are purified, they are immune from impurity. Immune from impurity. What they give you, when you eat it, it fulfills you. When they touch you, they purify you. Subhanallah, when you see the purification verse, that Allah wants to keep away impurities from the Ahlul Bayt, and yet when the Ahlul Bayt touch us, they purify us. This played a very big role on me, that I said, look, I'm reading people like Imam Abu Hanifa, Imam Malik, right? So my research did not stop with just the Shia. I went into Tunisia, Morocco, and saw the Malikis. I didn't even believe Dr. Tijani existed. I said to Ali, I said, you're a liar. This man, you fabricated this man, right? This book is a Shia book that you wanted me to believe. And he said to me, he said, do you want to meet this man? Will you meet him and then agree that he exists? Is this the yaqeen you want? I said, yeah, I want to see him, And alhamdulillah, Ali is one of those people. He had contacts. He spoke to Dr. Tijani in Tunisia. He said that there's a meeting in London sometime. Are you coming to that meeting? He said, yeah. He said to me, do you want to come to this meeting? I said, yes. So I said, okay, in this meeting, the person that you think is imagination will be there. I said, okay.
And you can verify that he's written the book?
Yes.
But
me being very curious, me also being very suspicious about this year, I said to Dr. Tijani, can I look at your passport? I want you to be sure this is Tijani al-Samawi and that this is not a fabricated name. And he said, why? And I said, because Tijani al-Samawi is a Maliki imam, alim from a very strong village of the Sufis, and it's a very, very strong group. And he said, yes, it's the same one. And you are doubting the book now. I said, yes, because the book writer is become a Shia. He says, that was a long time ago. That was a long time ago. I am that Shia now. And at this point in my life, right, I knew now the yaqeen, the certainty, right, that if these people don't even hide their writers, they bring them in front of you, right, what have they got to hide? What have they got to hide? Moving on, I didn't tell anybody about this change in my deen, in my aqidah. I looked at myself, evaluated my life, and in this evaluation, I came to the conclusion my wife had graduated in medical school in Aberdeen. Okay, I graduated in Leeds. But when we see somebody graduated from Oxford or Cambridge, what achievement they have. Their degrees are above ours. Yeah, their achievements are above ours because these are foundations laid in England. Because if you go with the Oxford degree university, you get a job anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
Okay. I liken my school of thinking now to that liking, right? We've got, Imam Malik school, we've got Imam Shafi school, Imam Hanbal school, right? And I wanted to go to the first school. I wanted to graduate from Oxford, right? I didn't want to graduate from Leeds or Manchester or somewhere else, right? I wanted to graduate from the Prophet.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين